The owner of the Lakers has now confirmed that everything I've said about LeBron James has been 100% accurate. And all those people in the media that are being paid under the table by Clutch Sports, and I know who they are, every one of them now is going to have to do some major damage control, because this isn't like me saying it or a colleague of theirs saying it or anonymous whispers out there. This comes directly from the woman who wrote the paycheck to LeBron James and every other member of the LA Lakers.
Craig Carton finally said out loud what a lot of people have been whispering for years, and the reaction tells you everything you need to know. The pushback wasn't about facts. It wasn't about accuracy. It was about discomfort. Because when these conversations come from random fans or analysts, they're easy to dismiss. But when they come from a national media voice reacting to comments tied directly to Lakers ownership, it hits different.
LeBron James has now been proven to be a selfish, narcissistic, ungrateful, average person on a basketball court since he got to LA.
So let me ask you this. When criticism comes from inside the Lakers organization itself, do we still pretend it's just LeBron haters talking? Drop your thoughts in the comments.
All right. Jeanie Buss grumbled to her board of directors that she thought LeBron James' ego was completely out of control from the day he became a Laker. Jeanie Buss was upset that the Lakers as a franchise allowed Clutch Sports to exert the level of control they exerted over roster moves.
This situation matters because it didn't start with Craig Carton. It didn't start with social media. It came from inside the Lakers organization. It came from the woman who signed the checks. And once those reported comments surfaced, suddenly the same criticisms people labeled as hate started lining up perfectly with reality. That's why the media is nervous. This time, the smoke came from the house, not the street.
Number 3, she hated the fact that LeBron allowed the local media, or convinced the local media and the national media, to view him as a savior to the Laker franchise. Number 4, she hated LeBron's lack of accountability for forcing the Lakers to get rid of Russell Westbrook. All right, he had denied any involvement in that whatsoever, and he's the reason behind Westbrook being traded. She privately mused about not giving him a contract extension this last time and trading him to get rid of the pain in the ass that he has been since he got to LA. She always felt, number 6, that LeBron James was not grateful that the Lakers drafted Bronny for him. All right? And the final one I have here, she begrudgingly gave him the last contract extension out of fear that if she didn't, she would have to absolve and take, on a personal level, a bad PR hit.
Craig Carton wasted no time. He made it clear that everything he's been saying about LeBron James for years has now been validated. Not by rivals, not by anonymous executives, but by Jeanie Buss herself, at least according to the people she chose to speak to. That alone changes the conversation. Because now, it's not about opinions, it's about patterns that finally have confirmation. According to those reports, Jeanie Buss believed LeBron's ego was out of control from the moment he arrived in Los Angeles. That should stop everyone in their tracks. This isn't Cleveland desperate for relevance. This isn't Miami forming a super team. This is the Lakers, a franchise built on the idea that no player is bigger than the brand. And yet, from day one, that balance shifted.
The one thing I'll push back on, because I know you will too, and I'm with you on this, you cannot complain as the owner that Clutch Sports has too much power in your organization when it's your organization and you allow them to have, I guess, unfettered power to what was happening with the roster and things around the roster.
One of the biggest issues Craig Carton highlighted was the influence Clutch Sports had over the Lakers' roster decisions. This isn't conspiracy talk anymore. When the owner of a franchise privately complains that a player's agency has too much power, that tells you something went wrong structurally. Roster moves, coaching changes, and player acquisitions all seem to revolve around LeBron's preferences and timeline. When those moves worked, LeBron got the credit. When they failed, accountability disappeared. That pattern repeated itself over and over. Young players were shipped out. Coaches became expendable. Front office members took the heat. Meanwhile, LeBron's image stayed protected. Craig Carton didn't exaggerate that. Fans watched it happen in real time.
What he did in Cleveland was great. What he did with that super team that he had to join so he could finally win the title, even though he lost to the Mavericks the first shot he had in Miami, is all well and good. LeBron James as a Laker has been a clown show.
The Russell Westbrook situation is the clearest example. LeBron publicly denied involvement in that trade. He made it seem like something that happened around him, not because of him. But according to reports, Jeanie Buss felt differently. She believed LeBron pushed for that move and then refused to take responsibility when it blew up. That's not leadership, that's brand management. And that's exactly what Craig Carton was calling out. Because if you're the face of the franchise, you don't get to choose credit without blame. You don't get to shape the roster and then distance yourself when it fails.
But it burns me to my core that there are dishonest media members who are on the Clutch Sports payroll who keep fostering this ridiculous notion about how great LeBron is. That being said, the two things that get me the most, and the highlights that at least I took out of the article that I gave to you, if it is true, and it's he said, she said, to be fair, okay? If it's true that LeBron James never showed what we would consider the appropriate gratitude for the Lakers not just drafting Bronny, but then giving him a guaranteed contract that the 55th pick in the draft has never gotten before dribbling a ball in the G League or the NBA. That would bother me too if I'm the person that allowed that to happen.
Then there's the media angle, which might be the most uncomfortable part of this entire conversation. Craig Carton flat out said there are media members who act like protectors for LeBron and Clutch Sports. Whether people like that framing or not, the behavior is obvious. Criticism of LeBron is treated differently than criticism of any other superstar. Ask a tough question, and you're a hater. Point out inconsistencies, and you're biased. Meanwhile, glowing coverage continues regardless of results. Miss the playoffs? Blame the front office. Early exit? The roster wasn't good enough. At some point, people started noticing the double standard. The Bronny James situation pushed everything over the edge. For months, reports suggested teams were warned not to draft Bronny unless they were prepared for LeBron's involvement. Bob Myers hinted at it publicly. Insiders talked about it openly. Then the Lakers drafted Bronny, and suddenly the story changed. Now we're told LeBron had nothing to do with it. Now it was organic. Now questioning it makes you a villain. That's narrative control in real time. And according to Craig Carton, Jeanie Buss wasn't happy about how that situation played out, especially if LeBron wasn't even grateful. Think about that. A 55th pick, a guaranteed contract, a historic father-son moment, something no franchise had ever done before. And yet, reports suggest there was dissatisfaction. If you're the owner of the team, watching your organization bend over backwards only to be met with entitlement, frustration is inevitable.
Craig Carton also made a fair point that many people ignore. If Jeanie Buss felt this way for years, she should have let LeBron walk. You don't get to complain about Clutch Sports having power if you allow them to have it. You don't get to blame LeBron for control if you refuse to draw boundaries. Ownership deserves criticism too. Jeanie Buss allowed this environment to exist. She allowed fear of bad PR to dictate decisions. She allowed star power to override structure. And the Lakers paid for it with years of inconsistency and dysfunction. One bubble championship doesn't erase that, especially for a franchise that measures success only in banners. The Lakers didn't just want relevance, they wanted dominance. And instead, they got drama, turnover, and excuses. What makes this conversation different is that it forces people to separate LeBron the player from LeBron the presence. On the court, even at his age, he's productive. Nobody denies that. But off the court, the power plays, narrative shaping, and lack of accountability are what people are finally willing to discuss. And the reason it feels different now is because it's not coming from fans. It's coming from inside the organization. Even if Jeanie Buss didn't say these things publicly, the fact that they exist at all changes how people view LeBron's tenure in Los Angeles. The media response has been predictable. Deflect, minimize, move on. Nobody wants to fully engage with what this means because it threatens how LeBron has been covered for 2 decades. If Jeanie Buss was incompetent, that doesn't absolve LeBron. Two things can be true at the same time.
A weak owner can allow a star player to overstep. That's not a hostile takeover. That's exploitation of a vacuum. And Craig Carton was right to point that out. Wherever LeBron goes, the same patterns follow. Media attention, narrative control, power struggles. That doesn't make him evil. It makes him a brand-first athlete. And brands protect themselves aggressively. That's why criticism feels dangerous. That's why dissent gets shouted down. That's why Craig Carton's segment hit so hard. He didn't whisper, he didn't hedge, he stood on business. The GOAT debate ties directly into this. The push to place LeBron in untouchable territory isn't just about basketball, it's about legacy protection. Because once people question the off-court behavior, the image cracks. Michael Jordan was ruthless, but he didn't hijack franchises. He didn't force teams to draft his kids. He didn't reshape media narratives around brand protection. That's why so many people reject the comparison. At the end of the day, this isn't about hate, it's about honesty. Craig Carton didn't invent these criticisms. He echoed what many fans have seen for years and what Lakers ownership allegedly confirmed behind closed doors. The Lakers survived Magic. They survived Kobe. They survived Shaq. They'll survive LeBron too. The franchise is bigger than any player. When that balance gets distorted, dysfunction follows. Now the question is, what happens next? LeBron is aging. The Lakers are transitioning. New ownership dynamics are coming, and the media can't keep pretending these conversations don't exist. Call it hate if you want, call it bias if you need to. But when the owner of the Lakers allegedly confirms the same concerns critics have raised for years, it stops being noise. It becomes a pattern. At the end of the day, this situation isn't about one article or one media segment. It's about a pattern that's followed LeBron James everywhere he's gone. When things go right, he's the leader, the savior, the king. When things go wrong, it's always someone else's fault. Front offices, coaches, teammates, or ownership take the heat while his image stays protected. That's why so many fans are finally pushing back. They're not denying his talent, they're questioning the double standard. Any other superstar would be criticized for this level of influence and control, but with LeBron, it's framed as leadership. That disconnect is what people are reacting to now, especially with these reports coming out of Los Angeles. The Lakers are bigger than any one player, and history proves that. They've survived legends, rebuilds, and eras of failure before bouncing back. That's why this moment matters. It's not about tearing LeBron down, it's about restoring balance and accountability to a franchise that allowed itself to be run by star power instead of structure. What happens next will define LeBron's final chapter. Does he finally step back and let the organization move forward? Or does the same cycle repeat itself somewhere else? Because wherever he goes, the narratives, the media protection, and the power struggles seem to follow.
So now it's on you. Do you think LeBron James helped the Lakers more than he hurt them? Or did his influence ultimately damage the franchise? Drop your thoughts in the comments. Hit that like button if you appreciate real talk, and subscribe for more unfiltered NBA conversations.